Hello and welcome to Green Product Certifications, picking out green from greenwash. This is a webcast presented by BuildingGreen and our Green Spec directory. My name is Tristan Roberts, Editorial Director for BuildingGreen, and I want to welcome everyone to this special event. So now, I want to introduce Jennifer Atlee, our presenter today. Jennifer is the Research Director for BuildingGreen. Please take it away.
My pleasure. I'm going to cover a bunch of territory here, and if you've never heard of certification, some of this may go over your head. If you're deep in a particular area, some will be pretty basic. The whole point is to get you up to speed on screening out greenwash and using the tools we have to get the job done and move to that sustainable world we're looking for. So first, I want to give you a quick run-through of the many insidious forms of greenwash. So some of these certifications are an easy fix for, but some of them are more nuanced, and it helps to understand more about how the world of certification works. A certification is based on a standard. So the standard and the standard development process will tell you a lot about the rigor of the certification. And on the other side, what you typically see on the product is a green label, and this may or may not be associated with a rigorous certification or standard. A lot of greenwash works because of label confusion. So sometimes manufacturers will just claim to meet the requirements of the standard, potentially with verification from a testing lab. And this is sometimes all you need, but not always. So first, second, and third party is important to understand. This defines the degree of separation between the certifier and the manufacturer. There are also different ISO, International Standard Organization rules to define the types of labels that you'll see. Remember, it's the standard that defines the rules of the game behind any good certification. In brief, the most robust standards are generally considered those developed through a formal voluntary consensus process, as defined by the International Standards Organization, ISO, and in North America by the American National Standards Institute, ANSI. We'll be focusing here mostly on established standards and certifications, but there's also interesting work going on in these emerging areas that I've got listed to the right. And I'll touch briefly on a few of them, but there are all areas to watch, even while there may not be that much to base specifications on today. So moving on to water. WaterSense is really the only real option for a certification for water efficiency on products. And it's great, tighter oversight than Energy Star from the start. The one thing I want to point out here is that you really do have to pay attention. If you're looking at the label as opposed to just saying, I want WaterSense certified products, you have to pay attention to which label you're talking about. And you'll find this in other areas as well. I'm just using this as an example. So the label on the top is for certified products. The label on the bottom just says that this manufacturer has signed an agreement saying they agree with WaterSense and are aiming in that direction. So pay attention to which label you're looking at. The evolution of emissions certification is quite a story, so I'm going to cut to the chase. There's two main philosophies now for testing the VOC emissions from a product. So that's volatile organic compounds, basically the emissions of concern for health. And I'm not going to get into the details here. There's a lot more that we can go into. But there's basically these two main philosophies, and a slew of different labels have been hung on these different philosophies. A second set of certifications, all based on California Section 1350 protocol. And this moved emissions testing from a focus on short-term emissions to testing focused on ensuring emissions from specific VOCs with known health concerns don't exceed dangerous levels within a space. So to cut through the label proliferation, some specifiers are just saying, okay, we just want to make sure that products meet California Section 1350. And this is a prime example of where green certifications are really needed, because a consumer can't just independently verify whether wood was sustainably harvested. All right, if it's a woodlot, of your next door neighbor and you've walked the land, yes, you can, but in general, that's not the case. So FSC was developed largely through the environmental community, and an alternative program, SFI, was developed out of industry frustration with FSC. So bio-based materials, so pay attention to growing and harvesting impacts, anything from deforestation and degradation of native habitat, chemical use, pesticides, herbicides, fertilizer, greenhouse gases from, say, cattle and sheep, conflicts with food products, which you have with corn and soy. There's a whole bunch of issues here, and there we're just talking about growing and harvesting. And then when you get into turning that bio-based material into an actual product, there's a whole bunch of other concerns that come up. Basically, to generalize it, it's really useful to understand the basics of life cycle thinking and use that to evaluate whether a certification is really addressing what matters for a product. Basically what this is just to take a look and go, okay, there's a whole bunch of things that multi-attribute standards are designed to include. And a lot of people see this as the next step. So it's not necessarily supplanting the seal of approval type of of certification, but it supplements them. You can have here's my check of approval that says, yes, I believe that this certification is a good one and the product that meets it is great, but at the same time I want to have a little bit more detail on what's behind that. There's a bunch of these multi-attribute sector-specific standards which can be used for specification and may become the basis for certifications. Carpet, furniture, resilient flooring, they're all over the map. And there's a bunch of ones coming up, so keep an eye out. So this is kind of what I'd like to see, which is, at least if I were a specifier or designer as opposed to a researcher, I'd love to see there's one clear, robust standard that's a multi-attribute standard that I can use for specifications for each product type. And multiple certifiers certify to that standard. I know what's going on here. There's enough market competition, but ultimately less confusion. And this is just a summary of the process we've been through. So how do you make decisions? How do you keep your eye on the ball? Don't forget the building. Focus on the building first. The greener the building, the important thing to pay attention to, the greener the building, the more the products matter. So thanks for joining, and we hope that you add other questions and participate online in some way as well.
There'll also be a place online to ask follow-up questions or anything you want to add, comments, experiences, anything you want to share. We would like to keep this conversation going with you. Thank you for joining us, and good luck sorting out the green from the greenwash. We hope we've helped you with that.